the 21.1 is from a different textbook, but the information is still good. Infectious diseases. These are diseases caused by a pathogen, and they infect the body, and generally can be spread from person to person. They can be caused by bacteria, viruses, fungi, or protozoa. Different pathogens spread in different ways. They may spread through contaminated food or water, sexual contact, droplets in the air from coughs or sneezes, like the flu, the cold, COVID, contaminated objects or surfaces, or vectors. To avoid infectious diseases, eat well, get plenty of sleep to keep your immune system healthy. Avoid the pathogens. Okay. Get recommended vaccinations. Follow good hygiene like hand washing. Avoid contact with vectors such as ticks and mosquitoes. This slide was made pre-COVID, so I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to add wear a mask. Okay, cloth mask, preferably with 2 or 3 layers of cotton fabric. That's going to prevent those water droplets from passing into the air from one person to another, or at least it's going to prevent how far they can spread. I mean, if you're looking at my video, okay, if you got a mask here and the droplets only go this far, okay, if someone's this close to my face, I got other problems other than whether or not I'm getting sick. Okay, if the droplets from a sneeze can go 6 feet, and they can, okay, then that's why we have that social distancing of 6 feet. And the mask dramatically reduces the number of droplets going into the air and how far they can travel. So wear a mask and wash your hands. All right, that brings us to non-infectious diseases. So if infectious diseases can be spread from person to person, then non-infectious diseases do not spread from person to person. Okay, so right off the bat, this is chapter 7, lesson 31. Non-infectious diseases are not contagious. They're usually caused by lifestyle choices, environmental toxins, or mutations. Most cancers are caused by mutations. We talked about those in a previous video. Remember, anything that increases your chance of cancer or causes cancer is a carcinogen, and they include chemicals, radiation, and pathogens. Diabetes is a disease in which insulin, either because there's too little or it doesn't work properly, doesn't regulate the sugar in the blood. Autoimmune diseases occur when the immune system attack other things like type 1 diabetes or allergies, or things like lupus, okay, or celiac disease. So these are all non-contagious. They're not going to spread. If you hug your grandma who has diabetes, you're not going to get diabetes. If you go to the hospital and hug somebody with cancer, you're not going to get cancer. Okay, so they're non-infectious, non-contagious. All right. So again, what you would write down, because a lot of that was spiraled review from previous lessons. A healthy lifestyle can reduce the risk of developing many non-infectious diseases. Don't smoke, people. You can lower your risk of cancer by avoiding habits that expose you to carcinogens such as smoking and tanning beds, okay, or sun exposure. Wear sunscreen. If you are working on your tan, do it in small doses. Spread it over time. Wear a low SPF instead of no sunscreen. Okay. And honestly, sun exposure damages your skin. Okay. So if you're trying to get that bronze color because you want to be beautiful, okay, fine. But here's the thing you got to remember. The more sun exposure you have, the more damage there is to your skin. The more chances you have of having damaged, not so beautiful skin as you get older. Okay, so limit it, especially while you're still growing and developing. All right, so here's a video about what is cancer. So I'm going to play this. The link is there if you can't hear it or something.
Cancer is a group of over 100 diseases characterized by abnormal, uncontrolled cell growth. In a healthy body, cells grow, die, and are replaced in a very controlled way. Damage or change in the genetic material of cells by environmental or internal factors sometimes results in cells that do not die and continue to multiply until a mass of cancer cells or a tumor develops. Most cancer-related deaths are due to metastasis, malignant cells that penetrate into the circulatory system and establish colonies in other parts of the body. Great advancements have been made, but cancer is still the leading cause of death for people under the age of 85. In the United States, 1 in every 4 people die from cancer.
All right, so now that you've watched the video, you should be able to answer these questions. I'll probably put those in an Ed puzzle. So we'll see you there. But don't go yet. Oh, those are the answers. Cell cycle and cancer. So this is a Amoeba Sisters. We're only going to watch about the first 3 minutes of it.
Have you ever been sitting in class and thought to yourself, I wonder what my skin cells are doing right now at this very moment? This kind of pondering may be unique to me, maybe, but wouldn't we at some point wonder what our cells are doing right now? Because if you remember, as part of the cell theory, you are made of cells. All living things are made of one or more cells. Many multicellular organisms like you have cells that work together, working together as part of a body tissue, body tissues working together as part of an organ, organs working together as part of an organ system. Your cells are specialized to work in these different levels of organization. You have skin cells, stomach cells, muscle cells, just to name a few, and their functions need to be regulated. These cells actually are regulated as part of something called the cell cycle, and that is going to relate to my question of, I wonder what my cells are doing right now. Cells themselves can grow in size, but let's put it in perspective now. A multicellular organism isn't growing because each individual cell is getting bigger. A multicellular organism itself grows by making more cells, by the cells making more cells by dividing. That's cell reproduction. One reason that you're bigger than you were when you were 5, unless you are 5, is because your cells have divided to make more cells. Mitosis and the cytokinesis that follows that splits the cytoplasm allows you to make new body cells, but you don't want that cell division happening all the time. Why? It is likely that you've heard the term cancer before. We have had family members that have battled cancer before. It is definitely a relevant topic for all of us. Cancer is in part due to cells that divide too frequently. The cells are not regulated. They are uncontrolled. Cancer cells can have other problems too. They might not be able to communicate with other healthy cells. They may not be able to carry out normal cell functions. They may not securely anchor themselves like other cells do, which can make them more likely to travel somewhere else. Some cancer cells have the ability to secrete their own growth hormone that makes blood vessels divert over to those cancer cells and supply the cancer cell with nutrients, which can take nutrients away from healthy cells. Why do cancer cells become this way? Well, there's a lot of research in this area. With some cancers, there may be genetic links, making some cells more susceptible to having problems. These genetic factors might run in families. Exposure to toxins, radiation, excessive exposure to UV light, all of these can be risk factors for some cells to become cancerous. The uncontrolled growth that cancer cells have gives rise to more cells like them, which can develop into a tumor. Some tumors stay put, but some do not. Now, the good news is that scientists continue to develop better treatments, which include destroying the cancer cells with radiation or medication such as chemotherapy, which will target cells that divide frequently. Maybe someday you will be part of helping to meet the challenge of trying to eliminate cancer, because the fact remains that these cells are not participating in the cell cycle like they should. So, what is the cell cycle? The cell cycle.
All right, so I'm going to stop there. And again, we have questions that you can look at. And then this is one about diabetes.
Finding out you have diabetes can be scary, but don't panic. People with diabetes can live long, healthy lives. Sure, let's go over some basics. This is diabetes. Made simple. When we eat, food travels to the stomach. Food is made up of 3 basic nutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. During digestion, carbohydrates are broken down into sugar, otherwise known as glucose. Here's a quick fact. Carbohydrates include foods such as bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, fruit, milk, and yogurt. In a normal digestive process, sugar travels from the stomach, through the bloodstream, to your body's muscle and fat cells. However, sugar can't enter these cells without the help of a special hormone called insulin, which is produced by the pancreas. Insulin acts like a key, unlocking the doors to the muscle and fat cells and allowing the sugar to enter. The cells then use this sugar as fuel to provide energy for the body. When this process is functioning properly, sugar entering the bloodstream from the stomach is able to exit the bloodstream at the muscle and fat cells. In this manner, the body is able to regulate the concentration of sugar in the bloodstream. Now let's see what happens in a person with diabetes. Sugar enters the bloodstream, but one of 2 things happens. Either the pancreas does not produce a sufficient quantity of insulin to match the sugar entering the bloodstream, or the body's cells do not respond to the insulin that the body is producing. In both cases, the result is the same. Cell doors remain closed, causing sugar to get backed up in the bloodstream. As a result, blood sugar levels rise. This creates several problems. Because sugars are not able to enter your body's cells, your body is not getting the fuel it needs. As a result, you may feel tired or fatigued. Your body may try to dilute the excess sugar in the bloodstream by pulling fluid out of your cells. This can leave you feeling dehydrated and thirsty. Most importantly, over time, exposure to high blood sugar levels can cause damage to vital organs connected to the bloodstream, such as your eyes, kidneys, nerves, and heart. If not controlled properly, diabetes can lead to serious complications, such as blindness, amputation, kidney failure, heart attack, and stroke. In order to avoid these complications, people with diabetes must take steps to keep their blood sugar levels in a normal range. One way to do this is through diet. By reducing the amount of carbohydrates you eat in a single meal or snack, you can regulate the amount of sugar entering the bloodstream and prevent your body's insulin supply from becoming overwhelmed. This may mean limiting high-sugar foods such as cake, pie, candy, and soda. You know which ones. Another way to regulate blood sugar is through exercise. Physical activity makes your body's muscle and fat cells more receptive to insulin. In other words, those muscle and fat cells that wouldn't open before, now they will. Finally, your doctor may prescribe oral medications to increase your supply of insulin, regulate the amount of sugar entering the bloodstream, or make your body's cells more receptive to the insulin your body is producing. In some cases, insulin shots may also be necessary. Okay, let's review. We've talked about what diabetes is, a condition where either the body does not produce enough insulin, or the body's cells are not receptive to the insulin being produced. We've seen what complications can arise from it, such as fatigue, dehydration, and damage to vital organs. Finally, we've discussed ways to manage it through diet, exercise, and medication. For more information about your specific...
All right. So here we are. This is one on allergies that we talked about previously.
Normally, your immune system helps protect you. It does this by sending in special cells, proteins, and natural chemicals whenever viruses, bacteria, or other harmful substances invade your body. This response helps neutralize the foreign invaders. But there are many things that enter your body that the immune system views as harmless. This can include things like pet hair, dust mites, and tree, weed, or grass pollen. In a person with allergies, the immune system mistakes these harmless substances, known as allergens, for a potential threat. The first time the immune system sees an allergen, it reacts by activating special cells. These cells make large amounts of proteins, called antibodies, that are specific to the type of allergen. These antibodies then attach to other immune cells, making them sensitive to the specific allergen. The next time the allergen enters the body, these sensitive immune cells quickly attack. They attach to the allergen, which causes a release of natural chemicals, including histamine. These chemicals enter the surrounding tissue and cause many of the early symptoms of allergies. For a person with allergic rhinitis, which affects the nose and eyes, sneezing, an itchy, runny nose, and red, itchy, watery eyes can result. 2 to 4 hours later, another response begins as more immune cells become activated and release their chemicals. These chemicals cause inflammation, swelling, and congestion within the affected areas.
All right. And then I think this one's pretty quick. This one's on inflammation.
Inflammation is a critical innate defense in the war between microbial invaders and their hosts. Microorganisms trigger inflammation when they're introduced into the body and begin to grow and produce compounds that damage host cells. Resident immune cells called macrophages may wander into the infected area and engulf the invading organisms. The macrophages digest the material and in this way help clean up the infection. In response to the infection, macrophages release a number of chemicals, including those called cytokines. Cytokines are small proteins that regulate the immune response. Some diffuse into the vasculature and stimulate endothelial cells to express specific receptors called selectins. Selectin binds to carbohydrates on the surface of neutrophils, snagging the cells as they flow by in the bloodstream and slowing them down, such that they roll along the endothelium. Inflammatory signals trigger these rolling neutrophils to express adhesion molecules called integrins on their surface. The integrins lock onto adhesion molecules called ICAM1 and VCAM1 on endothelial cells. The tight adhesion stops the rolling, and the neutrophils begin to stretch out along the endothelial surface. Damaged tissue cells in the area of inflammation release bradykinin, a 9-amino acid polypeptide that helps loosen the tight junctions between endothelial cells.
I know there's a lot of words they're throwing out. All I want you to kind of know is the basic process and what inflammation is. Don't worry about remembering all these sciencey words.
Neutrophils can now initiate extravasation, in which they squeeze through the loosened endothelial wall and into the tissues, where they can help macrophages attack the invading microbes. Bradykinin molecules also bind to other cells of the immune system called mast cells that are in the area, causing them to release histamine. The histamine further loosens the endothelial cell junctions, allowing more fluid and cells to move out of the capillaries. Bradykinin, when it attaches to capillary cells, induces the cells to synthesize prostaglandins. prostaglandins stimulate nerve endings, causing pain, which draws awareness to the infected area. The 5 cardinal signs of inflammation are redness, warmth, pain, swelling, and altered function at the affected site.
All right. So that's the end of that one. All right. Non-infectious diseases. Again, we talked about these are caused by such factors as lifestyle choices, environmental toxins, or mutations. So make sure you get that highlighted a bit down. Common causes and common types of cancer. Again, caused by mutations, caused by carcinogens like cigarette smoke, radiation, chemicals, some pathogens. All right. This is a cigarette and some of the things that are in cigarette smoke. Okay. There's methanol, which is they use as part of rocket fuel, carbon monoxide, which is it's a chemical. It's the formula is CO, 1 carbon, 1 oxygen. It actually sticks to hemoglobin better than oxygen. So every breath you take of carbon monoxide, you have less and less oxygen going through your circulatory system to your cells. Arsenic is a poison. Methane, they have it listed as sewer gas, but it's a flammable thing. It does come from sewers and swamps. The back end of cows. Acetic acid is in vinegar. Butane is part of lighter fluid. Or cadmium is in batteries. It's a toxic chemical that can cause cancer. Stearic acid is in candle wax. Hexamine is what they use for barbecue lighters. Toluene is an industrial solvent, which means it dissolves lots of things, lots of chemicals. Nicotine was evolved by tobacco plants to kill insects. It is a natural insecticide. To humans, it is addictive. It affects every part of the body because you're breathing it in. It goes into your bloodstream. It goes to every part of your body. It's not good for you. Ammonia is used as a cleaning fluid, and it's not something you want to breathe. If you ever are cleaning with it, you know that's just not something you want to breathe. But all of these things in cigarette smoke, a lot of them are carcinogens, and so just breathing in secondhand smoke, certainly being a smoker, is a big way to increase your chance of multiple cancers. We've talked about diabetes. Remember that it's non-infectious, and it has to do with insulin either not working properly or not being enough of it. Autoimmune diseases, we've talked about too. They're non-infectious, and they're where the immune system attacks healthy cells in the body. Type 1 diabetes, lupus, celiac disease. Those are all examples of autoimmune diseases. Okay. And that brings us to immune system. That's going to be another video. All right. I'll see you there.